Okay, today's called Vertex to General Form, and we're starting off with just some review here. If you're going to put this to the second power, the answer is not x squared and 3 squared. It's first outside, inside, last, which is x squared, and then the outside and inside make plus 6x, and the last make 9. All right, good. We've been practicing that for a while, so that should be a piece of cake. All right, this one. What is a quadratic? Well, basically quadratics make parabolas, and so we've got some of these quadratics are in equation form, and some are actually parabola form. And of course, you change the equation, you're going to change how the parabola looks. This is the simplest of them all, parabolas, and of course this adds a little bit of complication, but it's still a parabola. If it's a quadratic, the biggest thing is it has an x squared in it as its biggest degree. So in other words, this has x squared in it too. So you can't really say it has x squared in it. You have to be able to say that x squared, or the degree of 2, this one has degree of 3. So then you can say, if you just simplify it to, they have to have a degree of 2, then this, for instance, has a degree of 2. By the way, to get a degree, you do not add those degrees together and say, this is a degree of 2 plus a degree of 1 makes a degree 3. It's not. This one's degree 2. Another simple way to say it is the biggest power in it is a 2. All right, that's what makes something a quadratic. All right, and we're going to have 3 major forms: general form, vertex form, and factored form. We're focusing on general and vertex form today. And general form is the most commonly seen one. If you had one like y equals 6x squared plus 2x plus 4, you've seen those before many times, and you know, hopefully, that that's A, that's B, and that's C. Okay, remember that? And that's the stuff you put into the quadratic formula with, you know, x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. If you don't know that little ditty, you will eventually, because we need you to know how to recall that equation. This form is called vertex form, and it is really common for this unit we are about to do. So you need to get good at handling problems that are in this form. Here's how it would typically look. 3 times x minus, let's change that to a different number, 4 squared plus 5. And now, if it's in this form, this is not general form anymore. But do you see that if I multiplied it out, its biggest power would be a 2, and therefore it is a quadratic? It's just a quadratic that looks different. If I wanted to actually multiply this out, again, this is on my top 20, so you've been practicing it already. That squared, okay, that means x minus 4 times x minus 4, and then you do first outside, inside, last. Then you'd times everything by 3, and at the end, you'd add 5. Okay, only do that at the very end, right? Okay, so that practice that we've been doing on the top 20 is going to really help today. It's going to feel easy. Because to get something from vertex form, which this is in right now, to general form, generally, you just multiply it out. So let's actually do this one. Go ahead and do that. X minus 4 times x minus 4, and then times everything by 3. And then when you're all done, add a 5. This time I'm not going to have you show me. I am going to have you show someone else, and they're going to tell me whether you were right or not. A lot of people will make a dumb little mistake in this. I strongly recommend you do the first outside, inside, last part first. I'm going to pause for a second while you work on. All right, I'm back from the pause. You should turn and show. It's going to go this way. These 2 rows, compare. You 2 rows, compare. If there's 3 in the front like you guys, go 3. These 2 rows, please compare. See if you have the same thing as them. And if you don't, double check, see who made the mistake. All right. Cool. So I'm going to go with Miss P in the front row. What did you have? 53? Can anybody verify that? Raise your hand if you had the same thing. Okay, good. So what did we just do? We just took something that was in vertex form and we changed it to general form. And all we had to do was be careful in how we multiplied it out. You know where the common mistake is? This part right here, because kids think it's x squared minus 16, and it's not. Okay, we practiced that ahead of time, so we wouldn't make that mistake. The next common mistake people make is to multiply everything by 3. They only multiply like the first number by 3. This 3 has to be multiplied by everything that comes out of this. And once it's all done, you can add the 5. All right, good. So now, let's talk more about this factored form. Factored form is just simply this. If I told you to factor that other equation, and you got an answer that looks like this, once it's factored, that's called factored form. That's it. And sometimes, is there a number in the front like this? You remember doing those? Then we'll talk more about the factoring on a different day. But because of the top 20, you guys are ready for that too, so it's going to be easy. All right, so now, if I asked for vertex form on this thing, do you think that the vertex might actually be important? That spot right there, 3 comma negative 4. Do you think if I'm writing it in vertex form, the vertex is important? Of course it is. So here's vertex form generally, y equals, and there's some number in front, and then there's some number like x minus something like here, and there's always squared, and then plus k. If that's the general form for vertex form, look at this one. First of all, look at this. See how from here to here it goes over 1 and up 1? Can you tell from that it has not been stretched? You know what I'm talking about? This one is not a stretched parabola because you can go over 1 and up 1. That's normal. So the stretch factor is a 1. And then the vertex just goes right here and here. So if the vertex is 3 comma negative 4, just be careful on this part, it's x minus 3. Notice that's the opposite of 3. And then minus 4. So again, if I'm just looking at this point right here, and this right here, that's got an opposite of 3, the opposite of this number. And this number we can trust because it's on the outside. Does that make sense? All right, to get the equation for vertex form, you just look and find the vertex, and you stick it into that equation. Now, what do you think we're going to do to get to general form? Generally, you just what? Multiply it out. Let's not even do it because we already practiced that enough times. But you would just take this part squared and then subtract 4 when you're all done. All right. One more question it asks is find f of 7. Are they telling us x is 7 or are they telling us y is 7? Telling us x is 7. When f of x is normally what you write, they're telling you that it's f of 7. They're telling you x is 7. So if x is 7, I go over here and I'd follow it up and figure out what it ends up being. Okay, well, I could just stick a 7 into this equation since it does not coming up on my graph, right? So couldn't I just put a 7 right there? Yeah. So 7 minus 3 is 4. 4 squared is 16. 16 minus the 4 gives me 12. So f of 7 is 12. Just stick in a 7 for the x. That's all that means. All right. Is this spot a minimum or a maximum? Does that look like a low spot or a high spot to you? It's a low spot, and therefore it's a minimum. That's it. All right. That's everything you had to learn for today. Now, we have a shorter than normal class period today, so it's a good thing I was able to finish up quickly. But let's actually just do some of your homework together. So I'll pause for a second while we pull that up. All right, so here we are on our homework. It's called vertex to general form. Number 1, describe the transformations. Well, this one, it's been moved. What does that plus 2 mean there? Left 2. Okay, I did number 1. Rewrite it in vertex form. Well, it is. This one is in vertex form. Can you see if I just add plus 0 to the end of it, that this thing is in vertex form? Get what I mean? The vertex, I can tell now, is negative 2 comma 0. It's really easy to goof that up and think it's 2 comma 0. Remember, you can't trust the thing on the inside. So the vertex is negative 2 comma 0 is my vertex. Is that going to help me graph it? Oh yeah, because if I go to negative 2 comma 0, there's a dot right there, and now from there I can just graph my parabola. Go over 1, up 1 on both sides. Go over 2 and up 4. Over 2 and up 4 this way. Get the idea? There we go. Could I have done it by graphing the parent and sliding it 2 spots to the left? Yeah. But I think it's good for you to get where the vertex is. This one, a lot of people have trouble seeing the vertex. Let me show you on this one that if I wrote it this way, x plus 0 squared minus 3, that's more like normal vertex form. And you can see the vertex lives here and here. So what is the vertex? 0 comma negative 3. So 0 comma negative 3 means it's moved, let me think, 0 comma negative 3 is down here. There we go. And then it's a normal parabola. Over 1, up 1, over 1, up 1, over 2, up 4, over 2, up 4, and there's my parabola. Now this one I haven't done this part yet. Describe it. So that's just down 3. Now this part about using your graphing calculator to graph both forms and to verify they are the same, that's going to take a long time. So I'm going to ask you to just use your graphing calculator if you're stuck on one and you're like, I'm not sure if I'm doing this right. All right, given that we have a shortened class period today, I'm not going to extend your assignment by having you graph every single one of these on a calculator. But if you want to grab a calculator and check one that you're not sure about, that would be totally fine and smart. Okay, this one we'd start by saying write 4. I hope you know where the vertex is. Put a plus 0 at the end and it'll be easier to see. 4 comma 0. So I go over 4 up 0. I know that's where my vertex is, and I know that I'm supposed to, from there, make a normal parabola. So go over 1 and up 1, over 2 up 4. My dots are way off, but I think you get the idea. Okay. Now this description, oh, that's where we're supposed to put the description, is down here. Oopsie. And then the last thing is it asks for general form. That means you take the equation they have and you multiply it all the way out. So that's where you put that down here under gen for general form. So this one I'd put x plus 2 times x plus 2, and then I'd actually multiply it out. And I'd have x squared plus 4x plus 4. There we go. There's the equation. Y equals, don't forget y equals if it's an equation. All right, and I will have you skip a few problems because today's assignments would run too long. So for my classes, I'm going to have you skip page 2 of this assignment. And that's all I have for you. I'm going to actually, before I end, I'm going to just make sure there isn't something scary at the end that I'm not aware of. Advantages in general of general form versus vertex form. Big surprise, vertex form has the vertex in it. That's its advantage. Okay. General form, the only real thing I can think of that is good about general form is that it's got A, B, and C in it, which means you can use the what on it. It's called, there's the Q. That's it. The quadratic formula. That's what's good about general form, is that it's got the A, B, and C, and that means you can use quadratic formula to solve it. All right. And let's see. This one is important. Please do that very last one. How would you explain to a friend why that's not equal to that? It's a really common misconception. And that's all I have for you for today.